Arriving from the far-off land, known to Hawaiians as Kahiki, the high priest Pa'au brought with him a new religion and had a heiau built on the highest ground available along this part of the Puna coast. Constructed around the 13th century, this heiau changed the way Hawaii's ruling class worshipped. Once, this ground was so sacred, so full of mana, that no commoner and no woman, regardless of rank, could approach the heiau. Man became the principal sacrifice, while the Kahuna and the ali'i communed with the gods within its walls. On this episode of Hawaii's Most Haunted, we learn about Waha ula Heiau on Hawaii Island.
Beyond the cool waters and trade winds of our idealistic paradise is the thin veil that separates our world from the place where the shadows talk back. Welcome to Hawaii's Most Haunted.
One of the largest heiau in Hawaii. Waha ula was also said to be the first luakini heiau, a temple for human sacrifice. After he spent some time in the islands, Pa'au told the ali'i that they had weakened their bloodlines by mingling with the commoners, thus setting aside their divine rights to rule. Pa'au returned to Kahiki seeking a chief who would strengthen the blood of the ali'i and their ties to the gods. The chief, Pele, came to Hawaii with Pa'au's return and became established as the new ali'i, and Pa'au became his Kahuna Nui. The pair founded a dynasty which ruled Hawaii through the time of their descendants, Kamehameha I and his Kahuna Nui, Hewa Hewa. With the new ali'i and the new heiau, the religion of the Hawaiians changed as well. The Kapu under Pa'au was strict and unforgiving. Under this Kapu, women were forbidden to eat with the men, or even enter the men's eating house. They could not eat food that had touched the men's umeke, or partake of certain foods like pork, honu, mai'a, niu, and certain types of fishes, or i'a. Other kapu were meant as conservation, like the kapu on catching aku and opelu, each for only 6 months out of the year, which ensured their survival and abundance. Ancient only referred to Waha ula as no keia heiau oia ki kapu ena ena. Concerning this heiau is the burning kapu. This meant that Waha ula was so sacred that the smoke of its fires falling upon any person was sufficient cause for the sacrifice to the gods of Waha ula. The mu, or body catcher of this heiau, were always watching for any breaking of the kapu. It was their job to collect the human sacrifices for the heiau. Woe to any man, even ali'i, who carelessly walked where the winds blew the smoke from the temple fires. And no person dared rescue him from the hands of the hunter of men. For then the wrath of the gods was sure to follow him all the days of his life. Ages ago, Kahele, the son of a high-ranking ali'i from Ka'u, set out on a pilgrimage to visit all the districts on Hawaii Island. On this huaka'i around the island, he was welcomed by the people of the area. He passed from place to place, taking part in activities with the ali'i he visited, surfing, konane, holua riding. These things entertained him until it was time to visit the sacred heiau. Then, with a deep sense of solemnity, of sacred things, Kahele made his offerings to the gods. Eventually, Kahele made his way to the Puna district, where the heiau Waha ula was located. However, as he finally approached Waha ula, in the midst of the stories he'd heard on his journey and the many pleasures he enjoyed, Kahele forgot about the peculiar kapu of the smoke of Waha ula. While Kahele walked toward the heiau, he was being closely watched by the mu. It was obvious that the young stranger did not know about the smoke and the kapu of Waha ula, for when it came his way, he did not dodge or run away. The guardian of the heiau knew that the stranger would soon walk right through the smoke and become fair game. Kahele never saw the club that killed him. As was required of the practice, no blood or disfigurement marred Kahele's body when it was placed on the ahu by the Kahuna that evening. After a while, the body of Kahele was dismembered, But instead of discarding the bones as usual, the Kahuna chose to save the iwi of Kahele in the practice of unihipili. The bundle of bones contained the spirit of a dead person and could be commanded to do the bidding of the Kahuna. In this practice of unihipili, the spirit of a person was bound to this world, and they were not free to enter the afterworld to be with their ancestors and friends. As was custom, religious ceremonies in Hawaii were centered around particular moon phases. While the Kahuna waited for the proper night to perform the unihipili ceremony, they stored Kahele's bones behind a rock in the wall of the heiau. The spirit of Kahele rebelled against this treatment of his iwi. The spirit fled this place of torment in search of his father, the ali'i of Ka'u. In a dream, Kahele's father learned that his son was put to death, and his bones were in great danger of dishonorable treatment. He awoke with the realization that his son called to him for help. He left immediately following his son's path, not knowing exactly where to find him. He had followed the footsteps of Kahele practically around the entire island until at last he had come to Puna. He could now hear the spirit voice of his son. For several days and nights, the chief hid himself near the temple, uttering the prayers to secure the protection of his family deities. Finally, when the darkness of the night was not broken by the moonlight, the ghost of Kahele hastened to the place where his father was sleeping and aroused him for the dangerous task before him. As the father arose, he saw the ghost of his son outlined in the darkness, beckoning for him to follow. Step by step, the ali'i cautiously felt his way over the rough path and along the temple walls until he saw the ghost standing near a great rock, pointing at part of the wall. The father seized the stone and, to his surprise, moved it easily away from the wall, revealing a small hollow patch in which lay a bundle of bones. The ghost urged his father to take these bones and depart quickly. The father obeyed and carried the bones of Kahele to their home in Ka'u, placing them in their own family burial cave. Finally, death had come to Kahele. The ghost of Waha ula went to the spirit world, where he remained in the company of his ancestors and friends. With the fall of the Kapu system in 1819, Waha ula ceased to be a place of worship. However, it was not done receiving sacrifices. In 1902, J.F.G. Stokes built a scale model of Waha ula Heiau using stones from the actual Waha ula Heiau on Hawaii Island. The model was encased in heavy plate glass and placed on the first floor of the Bishop Museum's Hawaiian Hall, where visitors could view it and learn a little bit about Hawaii's ancient history. 3 years later, while working on the roof of the museum, 17-year-old Herman Kahiko fell 47 feet to his death, landing directly upon the model of Waha ula Heiau. While working with the crew on the roof of Hawaiian Hall, it is believed that Herman was sent to retrieve some supplies from a tool room located directly below the roof where he'd been working. Instead of attending to his errand, Herman entered the skylight room, which was adjacent to the tool room. The death inquiry found finger marks in the coating of dust on top of the skylight panels, as if he'd rubbed off a layer of dust to obtain a view of the people and the objects down in the hall. They say he must have lost his balance while sightseeing and fallen through the skyline straight down, crashing to the glass case that surrounded the model, landing directly on top of the diorama. Waha ula had claimed yet another sacrifice. In 1978, Bob Crane, former star of the TV series Hogan's Hero, along with his friend, came to Hawaii to film something called the Hawaii Experience. From the beginning, everything was going wrong. Equipment began to break down. The $50,000 camera suddenly fell to the side and broke. Even after the episode was complete, they had a difficult time editing because every time they inserted a tape, the machine would spit it back out. What was not known officially in the news is that Bob Crane and his friend openly made fun of the Hawaiians on the crew and their beliefs. The Hawaiians on the crew were not happy with the way that Bob Crane's friend was called the White Kahuna. They didn't think it was respectful. And so, to prove them wrong, when they filmed at Waha ula Heiau, Bob Crane and his friend dropped their pants and urinated on the side of the wall of that heiau. When production was complete, the producer needed Bob Crane to come back to do some voiceover, but Bob Crane never made it. It turns out he was found in a hotel room with the back of his head bashed in. And that old heiau called Waha ula, one of the ways in which to sacrifice the body and to deal with criminals who broke the Kapu, was to take a large piece of wood with a knot at the end and bash in the back of that person's head. Coincidental? His murder is still unsolved until this day. Did Waha ula Heiau take yet another human sacrifice? In 1983, the Pu'u'o'o eruption began and ranks as the longest and most voluminous known outpouring of lava from Kilauea in more than 500 years. By the end of the eruption in 2018, lava flows had covered more than 55 square miles and added more than 400 acres of land to Hawaii Island's ever-changing landscape. The flows also buried nearly 9 miles of highway with lava over 100 feet thick in some places. Additionally, the lava destroyed more than 200 homes and other structures, including ancient fishing villages, canoe landings, and other historical sites. In 1989, the visitor center near Waha ula Heiau fell victim to the fires of Pele, but the lava stopped just short of the temple walls. Many people believe that Pele disagreed with the road and visitor center being built so close to the sacred heiau and destroyed the modern structures. Since the visitor center was lost, although the lava flows came close to the heiau on 4 more occasions, the temple remained unharmed until 1997. Hopes that Pele would continue to spare Waha ula Heiau were dashed when lava began creeping over the walls one early August morning. Eyewitnesses watched helplessly as one finger of lava went over the wall, then another, and then it flowed like sheets. The molten lava quickly poured through the structures to the tops of the walls, like filling in a basin. Pretty soon, the entire structure was buried, and the last remnant of history in that area, dating from the 13th century, was suddenly gone. Today, there is nothing to see among the vast stretches of black lava that covers the area. Pele has reclaimed her island.